people are like, that looks like the lady from The View.
Right.
But if we're together, they know,
of course,
that we are there. And so we took about 50 selfies at intermission, and all of a sudden we were surrounded by security, and we were telling them, no, we want to hear from our viewers. Like, we're cool with this. Like, this is wonderful that they love the show so much. It was kind of incredible, right? They had a vision of how do we create community and create a space where we are welcome in a country where we are not welcome. And I think that was the goal, has been the goal, and they have really maintained that goal.
All of those trials and tribulations. And so I tried to find that balance, because we live these robust lives. Women are really complicated. And I think I found that balance, and I struck that balance. And I just wanted to make sure that I showed how, what complexities and complex creatures we are as women. You can't write a book about women if you don't write about our complexities.
I was reluctant to share it, actually.
Why?
I will tell you. Because I knew that it would get pickup. I knew that it would be Sunny Hostin from The View. And
so what?
I know.
But this happened to you. You weren't lying.
It happened, but I will tell you, right after it happened, I went over to Joy Behar's house, and she said, "What's wrong with you? You're not your usual self." And I told her, and she said, "We're talking about this on the show."
That she refused to go back. I mean, I invited her several times. Nanny, come. I used to call her Nanny. Nanny, come to Puerto Rico. I'll put you up at the Ritz. It'll be great. No desire.
Yeah.
Zero. And no desire to talk about her time there, really, either.
Well, all of this loss occurred before the age of 12.
Yeah, I can't imagine it, actually. I can't imagine that.
Listen, I think that after 2 years of a Trump presidency and a Trump administration, I think during the midterms, there will be a referendum on the fact that he is likely to tear apart families. These crazy tariffs are going to inure to the benefit of no one, especially the working class and the middle class. I think once the economy starts tanking, and it may not happen in 2 years, but it certainly will happen in 3 years, according to economists.
Sunny Hostin, a name that resonates with millions of Americans who tune in daily to daytime TV for sharp opinions, fiery debates, and no-nonsense breakdowns of current events. She's built her reputation on championing the underdog, speaking truth to power, and never shying away from controversy. But what happens when the controversy comes knocking at her own front door? Over the past few months, whispers of a massive federal lawsuit have threatened to shake Sunny's life to its foundation. Accusations involving her husband, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, and an alleged insurance fraud scheme that might be one of the most far-reaching in recent history. Such claims don't just emerge from nowhere. They come attached to stacks of legal documents, bold allegations, and a storm of social media chatter that either condemns the Hostins outright or defends them with unwavering loyalty. Yet, this isn't just another celebrity rumor. The lawsuit alleges that unnecessary medical procedures, questionable insurance claims, and possibly millions of dollars in fraudulent payouts are at stake. The very mention of federal fraud and RICO, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act violations tells us we're in serious legal territory. Territory usually associated with organized crime, not the living rooms of talk show personalities. How did the Hostins end up here? And if these allegations are even partially true, what does it mean for Sunny's carefully crafted image? Critics call it the height of hypocrisy for a former prosecutor who has spent years on national television demanding accountability. Fans question whether the claims have been blown out of proportion by competing interests. As the legal process grinds on, one thing is clear. There's much more to this story than meets the eye. But before we unravel the most startling details, let's zoom in on exactly what these accusations entail and why they could turn Sunny Hostin's world completely upside down. According to the lawsuit, the scope of this alleged scheme goes far beyond simple billing errors or minor missteps. Court documents describe what amounts to a sprawling web of questionable medical procedures, surprising legal loopholes, and eye-popping insurance claims that balloon into tens of millions of dollars. The primary defendant in this sensational case is none other than Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, a respected orthopedic surgeon known for his once sterling reputation. Prosecutors claim he performed surgeries and other interventions that his patients didn't actually need, all in a calculated effort to rake in generous insurance payouts. The phrase, largest RICO case ever filed in the state of New York, doesn't get tossed around lightly. The attorneys spearheading this lawsuit emphasize the gravity of potential wrongdoing, from exploiting no-fault insurance laws designed to make it easier for accident victims to receive coverage, to filing claims that allegedly misrepresented the extent of patient injuries. If found liable, Dr. Hostin could face damages tripled under RICO provisions, potentially creeping into the hundreds of millions, even billions. In a world where medical professionals are supposed to protect patients, that claim alone is enough to leave anyone speechless. Yet the intrigue doesn't stop with Dr. Hostin. The lawsuit references nearly 200 additional individuals, physicians, clinic administrators, and other medical professionals, painted by prosecutors as participants in or beneficiaries of this alleged network. Investigations have reportedly unearthed everything from questionable patient referrals to suspiciously timed medical evaluations. Some patients, many of whom work as taxi or rideshare drivers, supposedly underwent procedures they never understood, needed, or consented to, at least not with full knowledge of the medical necessity. Each new revelation piles on another layer of disconcerting possibility. For Sunny Hostin, this entire situation is a public relations nightmare. She has gone on record labeling these accusations as baseless, insisting her husband has committed no wrongdoing. Still, the very notion that a figure associated with daytime television's moral compass could be entangled in allegations this severe is enough to whip media outlets into a frenzy. People who have long admired Sunny's forthright stance on justice wonder, how could something like this unfold so close to her, especially given her own legal background? Yet there's more to be uncovered, particularly about Sunny's past as a federal prosecutor, and how it may tie into the accusations swirling around her husband today. Sunny Hostin's CV reads like a checklist of high-caliber achievements. Federal prosecutor, legal analyst for major news networks, author, and, of course, co-host on a popular daytime talk show. Her appeal rests in her ability to dissect complex legal matters for everyday viewers, shining a light on issues many people don't fully grasp. She frequently calls for transparency, accountability, and justice, values one would assume she holds dear, not just in a professional capacity, but in her personal life too. That's precisely why the public's curiosity about her involvement in her husband's alleged insurance fraud scheme has reached a fever pitch. Anyone who's been around enough legal proceedings knows how easy it can be for lines to blur when personal and professional worlds collide. Even if Sunny never directly advised her husband on these alleged practices, skeptics can't help but wonder how she might not have noticed any red flags, particularly given her prosecutorial instincts. Internet chatter speculates on a range of possibilities, from total innocence, she must have had no idea this was happening, to more unsettling theories, she's the behind-the-scenes mastermind who leveraged her knowledge to shield Dr. Hostin from suspicion. While none of these rumors have been substantiated in court, the swirl of theories captures how sensational this case has become. Indeed, it's one thing for a person to argue legalese for a living, quite another to face the possibility that your own household might be entangled in the very wrongdoing you've often criticized. For Sunny, the prospect of a major federal investigation isn't just about potential legal fallout, it's about the credibility she's built. Her status as a public figure rests heavily on being seen as principled, knowledgeable, and uncompromising in her stance against wrongdoing. If evidence emerges that Sunny either ignored clear signs of trouble or lent her professional expertise in questionable ways, her carefully honed reputation could vanish overnight. Right now, Sunny and her husband's legal team are adamant that all allegations are baseless and motivated by a desire to avoid paying legitimate claims. Nevertheless, the fear among her critics is that this lawsuit might be a primer for something even bigger, a potential criminal investigation. RICO statutes are notoriously broad, allowing prosecutors to cast a wide net when indicting individuals who supposedly contributed to a pattern of illicit behavior. If these allegations stick, it won't just be Dr. Hostin answering questions in court, but the questions looming over Sunny's involvement are only part of this story. The public's reaction to this scandal and the heated debates erupting across social media add another layer entirely, one that's fueling a wave of speculation unlike anything she's faced before. If you've spent any time scrolling through social media these days, you've likely seen Sunny Hostin's name trending. Opinions pile up in comment threads, hashtags appear overnight, and the heated exchanges swirl around whether Sunny deserves condemnation, support, or patient neutrality until more facts emerge. On one side, staunch defenders argue that rumor mongers are out to discredit a woman who's built her life championing justice. We shouldn't rush to judge, these supporters say, innocent until proven guilty. On the other side, critics chastise her as a hypocrite who chastised others for far less serious issues while she was on The View's panel, only to face potentially far greater wrongdoing at home. It's not just your average Twitter or Instagram comment fueling the blaze. Prominent media figures and former guests of The View have added their voices to the fray, some championing Sunny as a victim of exaggerated claims, others condemning her for refusing to take responsibility or at least show greater transparency. YouTuber commentaries and podcast episodes dissect every snippet of new information, analyzing Sunny's body language in recent TV appearances for signs of guilt or stress. Amid these loud and conflicting voices, a unifying concern emerges: the alleged victims, specifically rideshare and taxi drivers, often among society's most economically vulnerable, who may have been pressured or tricked into medically unnecessary procedures. If those allegations hold water, then the scandal involves more than a typical white-collar crime. It becomes a story about exploitation of people who can least afford to be caught in an unethical healthcare scheme. This cuts especially deep for those who've watched Sunny Hostin speak compassionately about marginalized groups. Some critics go as far as labeling the scandal a betrayal of the very values Sunny claims to represent: compassion, empathy, and fierce advocacy for underrepresented communities. Others point out that these are still allegations and that no final judgment has been rendered. The tension in the online community is palpable, with accusations of bias lobbed from both sides. But the online storm is only half of this unfolding drama. Behind the cameras and inside the studios of The View, tension has reportedly been simmering, perhaps hinting at far more than casual silence by her co-hosts. For years, The View has prided itself on being a cultural bellwether, a place where big personalities clash and hot topics are scrutinized from multiple angles. It's a show that thrives on authentic conversation and controversy. Each panelist brings a unique viewpoint, and Sunny Hostin has long occupied the legal analyst role, dissecting everything from Supreme Court rulings to celebrity trials. Yet now, with allegations swirling around her own husband, she finds herself in the type of precarious position that would normally spark a heated segment if it weren't so painfully close to home. Viewers note that Sunny's co-hosts have been unusually quiet when it comes to discussing the lawsuit. In a show that has never shied away from tackling even the most awkward or sensitive topics in the news, this radio silence feels deafening. Rumors suggest that producers and network executives have held behind-the-scenes discussions about how to address or not address the scandal. After all, The View's brand depends on credibly holding figures of authority accountable, and ignoring such a high-profile story could erode the show's integrity. Sunny's interactions on camera are under the microscope too. Some claim she appears more guarded, less outspoken, as if she's consciously staying in her lane to avoid opening the door to questions she'd rather not answer. On the flip side, there are brief moments where her usual fiery nature surfaces, suggesting she's determined to maintain her professional role despite the swirling turmoil. It's a tightrope act: remain authentic and engaging without giving critics more fodder for speculation about her private life. Network executives, for their part, must be weighing the potential fallout. If the allegations continue to snowball, or if fresh evidence emerges implicating the Hostins more deeply, ABC could face enormous pressure to remove or at least temporarily sideline Sunny to protect the show's reputation. That decision wouldn't come lightly. Sunny's fervent fan base tunes in specifically to see her insights and commentary, and her departure, especially under scandalous circumstances, would inevitably send shockwaves throughout the daytime landscape. But while The View grapples with possible internal conflict, the Hostins themselves are forging a counteroffensive, determined to fight back against an insurance company they claim is behind a baseless smear campaign. Facing a lawsuit of this magnitude, Sunny Hostin and Dr. Emmanuel Hostin have wasted no time assembling a high-powered legal team. Their lawyer, a figure known for tackling difficult, high-profile cases, has already filed motions hinting at a defamation countersuit. The thrust of their argument is straightforward. The insurance company in question, American Transit, has a history of filing lawsuits designed to dodge payouts they allege, and this is merely the latest scheme in a long line of questionable tactics. According to the Hostins team, the story the public is hearing is built on half-truths and sensationalized claims. The potential countersuit seeks millions in damages, claiming the defamation has irreparably harmed Dr. Hostin's medical practice, tarnished Sunny's public image, and inflicted deep emotional distress on their family. Their spokespeople describe American Transit as a near-bankrupt organization that's weaponizing legal procedures to save money on legitimate claims. In that telling, Dr. Hostin's medical procedures were entirely necessary, and any talk of RICO-level fraud is a reckless exaggeration. But the stakes are enormous. Should the case go to trial, both sides will undoubtedly pour resources into discovery, expert witnesses, and an exhaustive review of thousands of patient files. Dr. Hostin's entire career could be scrutinized. Every procedure, every insurance claim, every detail, looking for patterns of potential fraud. And Sunny, by extension, might see her financial records, professional communications, and personal involvement dissected line by line. RICO cases can be labyrinthine, often taking years to resolve. It's a grueling process, and losing such a battle can have life-altering consequences, crippling financial damages, destroyed reputations, and in some instances, criminal proceedings. As if all that weren't enough, the court of public opinion often demands answers faster than the legal system can provide. Even if the Hostins emerge victorious in court, they may struggle to salvage their reputations if the swirling rumor mill solidifies an unsavory narrative in the public's mind. Anyone who's watched other celebrity lawsuits knows that the real fight can be less about the final verdict and more about shaping the narrative along the way. And beneath the strategies, countersuits, and swirling allegations lies a deeper moral dilemma, one that strikes at the core of who Sunny Hostin claims to be and how our culture treats those in positions of privilege. At its essence, this scandal isn't merely about a single doctor or a daytime TV host facing a lawsuit. It's about how the pillars of fame, power, and perceived righteousness can crumble under scrutiny. Sunny Hostin made her name championing the disenfranchised and shining a light on social injustice. She frequently called out systemic issues, spoke passionately about ethical lapses in politics, and portrayed herself as an advocate for those who lack a voice. If the accusations against Dr. Hostin have merit, the alleged scheme targeted precisely the kind of working-class, marginalized individuals Sunny so often defended on air. Taxi drivers, rideshare operators, and others operating on tight margins are not typically in a position to question a respected surgeon's judgment or the complex world of medical billing and insurance claims. This raises profound ethical questions. Is this just a glaring example of the privileged exploiting the vulnerable, or is it a cautionary tale of how reputations can be unfairly sullied by ruthless legal battles? For any public figure, especially one known for scrutinizing corruption, the contrast between public persona and private actions can be devastating. Even if Sunny Hostin herself isn't directly implicated, the simple proximity to allegations of fraud calls into question her moral platform. How can someone so vocal about doing the right thing be so apparently blind to her own household's alleged misdeeds? The tension between her role as a public advocate and the possibility of private misbehavior puts the spotlight on an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the people we admire are not who they appear to be, or conversely, they might be victims of a system that weaponizes lawsuits and sensational media coverage, tearing down reputations before the facts are fully explored. It's a dilemma with no easy answers, reflecting broader societal issues about trust, hypocrisy, and the ways powerful figures navigate accountability. Yet as dramatic and convoluted as this scandal already is, we still haven't reached a resolution. The biggest question remains, will Sunny and her husband manage to clear their names? Or is this the first act in a much darker tale that could redefine their careers, their finances, and their very identities? From the moment rumors of a massive fraud scheme hit social media, Sunny Hostin's world has been on the brink of transformation. Once admired solely for her incisive commentary and her knack for boiling complex legal matters down to everyday language, she now faces a reckoning that could alter how she's perceived for years to come. Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, meanwhile, stands at the center of a legal hurricane, fighting to protect a medical career that, if the lawsuit is proven correct, may have thrived on allegedly unethical billing and unnecessary procedures. Across thousands of pages of court documents and countless online debates, one theme emerges repeatedly: Sadly, the chasm between public persona and private reality can be staggering. For Sunny, the stakes couldn't be higher. She risks losing the credibility that's underpinned her success as a legal analyst, talk show host, and author, and the emotional toll on their family, on her daily interactions on The View, and on her viewers' trust may prove even more devastating than any financial penalty. Whether Sunny and Dr. Hostin's countersuit prevails, or whether American Transit's allegations hold up under cross-examination, the case itself serves as a striking reminder that no one is immune to scandal, no matter how moral or outspoken they appear. It shines a spotlight on the invisible lines between justice and exploitation, between the powerful and the powerless, and between who we say we are and who we turn out to be behind closed doors. For all the speculation, none of us truly knows the whole story yet. As the legal battle unfolds, new evidence and testimony could either exonerate the Hostins or cast them in an even more damning light. Until that day comes, the tension lingers, and the many fans, along with the critics, will be watching every development with bated breath. Stay tuned for new information on this unfolding legal saga, because when it comes to Sunny Hostin's reputation, her husband's future, and the integrity of those alleging fraud, there's no telling which revelation might be the one to change everything.